Many things. I'm not here, so I told you so.
I'm just gonna go to you because, no, I'm gonna say it. You were a crappy candidate. And you were part of a group of people who provided cover for a man who was falling apart mentally speaking, but decided to run anyway. Decided to stay in the race for a month after that disastrous debate against Donald Trump. And then when Biden, the most unpopular sitting president, called you up before the debate and told you, remember, kiddo, no daylight between us, do not differentiate yourself from me, you listened. So to sit there or stand there and give a speech about, oh, I told you so, I told you so. These are the worst people, man. They really are.
You gotta love Ana and the anger that she expresses at the Democratic Party for lying consistently about both of their candidates. Obviously, Joe Biden's mental state, but in addition to that, that Kamala Harris was the second coming of Barack Obama, only for us to discover in the new campaign book Fight that nobody wanted her to be the candidate, even Joe Biden, who endorsed her, who was basically forced to endorse her by the Congressional Black Caucus, and of course, by the fact that he selected her as the VP and not endorsing her would be an admission of his failure. But even though everyone knew that, even though everyone understood that Kamala Harris was a loser, all these different various people in left-wing media were sucking up to her, were worshiping her, were pretending that she didn't just steal the nomination from Joe Biden outright, and pretended that that was not a ridiculous, unprecedented scenario in modern politics. Now, we're gonna break this down, we're gonna enjoy this segment, but before we do, I want to thank everybody who supports this channel via actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money, okay? Well, some cracks are beginning to form between Kamala Harris and her 2024 presidential running mate, Tim Walz, with the latter taking issue with something Harris said in public recently. Now, last week, Kamala Harris made her first public appearance in months, speaking at the Leading Women Defined Summit in California. This happened last Thursday. And she used this as an opportunity to look at American voters and say the following.
We are seeing organizations stay quiet. We are seeing those who are capitulating to clearly unconstitutional threats. And these are the things that we are witnessing each day in these last few months in our country. And it understandably creates a great sense of fear. Because, there were many things that we knew would happen. Many things. I'm not here, so I told you so.
So Ana's mega rant is actually in response to Kamala Harris doing her I told you so moment, and as Ana aptly points out, Kamala Harris has been in hiding for a couple of months, ever since she left office after getting absolutely trounced in the 2024 presidential election. She has not made very many public appearances or anything of the sort, and the fact is the Democrats are actually better for it because she is a charisma vacuum, as Ana points out in her mega rant about Kamala Harris. But of course, it's not just the fact that she was a terrible candidate and that she was absolutely awful at her job as a candidate. It's also the fact that all these different people in progressive online media, and by the way, they are the usual suspects that we've talked about before, were worshiping her and lying to everybody about her, about how amazing she was, and about how, oh my God, we had this on lock. Kamala Harris is gonna win Iowa, and all these other ridiculous things that these people put forward that, of course, have gone after Ana as well. So it's essentially a two birds, one stone situation right here. And by the way, I'm totally here for that.
Okay, no, we all knew what Donald Trump was. We all knew. And for all the Democratic ass kissers out there who provided cover for the bad behavior of that administration, they directed their ire toward people like us who kept warning the Democrats, you're gonna lose to Trump, you're gonna lose to Trump, you're pushing unpopular policies, you're gaslighting Americans on the issue of immigration. If you do that, that creates an opening for someone like Donald Trump to come in and do what he's doing in regard to mass deportations, do what he's doing in regard to literally deporting people before they even have a single day in front of a judge to adjudicate whether or not they're undocumented, to adjudicate whether or not they're actually gang members.
So first of all, I just want to say, Anna, I really appreciate the fact that you're drawing a picture in what you are saying with your hands. I am often getting negative comments from people out there in the audience for how I move this particular hand, when in reality, hand talking is perfectly acceptable. And I believe that Anna actually learned this from Sorrento, which is, by the way, where I had my honeymoon. And coincidentally, right after that, if you pay attention to the bonus episodes of the Young Turks, it's where Anna ended up going with her husband. So I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying she probably still has a little bit of that Italian spirit, and it's being expressed right there with her hand talking. You created an opening for Trump to go through on the issue of immigration. Totally on board with it. It's not. I'm not making fun of you. I'm in. And by the way, she's 100% accurate about this. The Democrats lied about the border, saying that it was not a crisis for multiple years, and then 7 months before the election, all of a sudden they had this border bill, and the evil orange man was killing the border bill, and that's why the border was wide open since Joe Biden took office. It had nothing to do with the fact that Biden said that he wanted these people to immediately surge to the border.
I would in fact make sure that we immediately surge to the border. All those people are seeking asylum. They deserve to be heard. That's who we are. We're a nation that says if you want to flee and you're fleeing oppression, you should come.
And then he implemented that strategy. It had nothing to do with the fact that Kamala Harris was the border czar and she bungles everything that she touches, including that particular issue. It was all the evil orange man killing a bill 3 years in that, by the way, would not have been effective in reducing the flow of illegal migrants.
All the left-wing media folks who directed their ire toward me. And they're like, oh, you see that? Anna's getting what she wants. No, I'm not getting what I wanted. I wanted Democrats to stop gaslighting American citizens and acknowledge what was going on in the country and provide their solutions for it.
Too much to ask for.
Too much to ask for. Anna's the problem. Oh, big, strong, big, bad Anna. With all of her power, she's the one who swung the election, right? I can't stand these people. They're the worst.
So I did not censor those swear words. They were actually censored on the video that was posted to YouTube.
Too much to ask for.
Too much to ask for. Anna's the problem. Oh, big, strong, big, bad Anna. With all of her power, she's the one who swung the fucking election, right? I fucking can't stand these people. They're the worst.
And obviously, you guys know for sure that those big, strong Anna clips are going to be clipped by me and utilized periodically throughout the course of my videos going forward into the future.
She's dangerous. She's a beast.
Oh, big, strong, big, bad Anna.
But to be clear, she is correct about this. The Democratic strategy was to say everything's fine and dandy, don't worry about it. The Democrats are doing a great job. Joe Biden's perfectly okay. And then when Joe Biden was out of the race, they pretended like he never existed and Kamala Harris was the second coming. I mean, there were reports out there that said that Kamala Harris had more enthusiasm around her than Barack Obama did, which is just ridiculous from top to bottom. This is a woman who never won a single state in a Democratic primary. When she ran in 2020, she actually ended up quitting the race months before Iowa, and the idea that suddenly she was Barack Obama 2.0 was absurd from top to bottom. She was afraid to do interviews for over a month when she was the candidate. All of her rise in the polls had to do with her not speaking, and ever since she started speaking during that campaign, she ended up losing. And by the way, one of the things that's acknowledged in the book Fight is that Kamala Harris would not have done better with more time in order to introduce herself to the American people. She actually needed Joe Biden to drop out like 4 days before the election so that they could have the honeymoon period, because nothing was bumping her up in the polls.
Once Biden finally dropped out and we were 100% right, we said do an open convention. Please do an open convention. Obama and Pelosi didn't endorse Kamala Harris. They didn't endorse because they know she's a disaster. Biden did endorse because he knows she's a disaster and he wanted her to lose so he could say his version of "I told you so." My career is so much more important. But as I tell you all these told you so's.
Mike.
God damn this mic.
Okay, while you do that.
Hold on. No. It's been giving me trouble all day. Sorry, guys.
Oh, big, strong, big, bad Anna.
So one of the things that I noticed from a lot of people that are covering information related to the book Fight is that they do not appear to have read it or listened to the audiobook version of it, which, by the way, I will recommend to all of you out there in the audience, because what Cenk is talking about is not exactly correct as to what happened. In reality, Joe Biden had to endorse Kamala Harris. He did not want to endorse her. At one point in time, he wanted to leave the party in disarray because he was pissed off at Barack Obama, but a combination of pressure from the Congressional Black Caucus, who were angry that other Democrats wanted to put Gretchen Whitmer forward because they thought they were passing over a strong black woman, and of course Joe Biden being reminded that that's his VP and him not endorsing her would be a stain on his legacy, and in addition to that, him not backing his VP would be the very same thing that he was angry at Barack Obama about, because he didn't back him not only in 2016 but also in 2020. So he ended up having to endorse her for those reasons. And by the way, there's some solid arguments for a smooth transition to the next person in line. It just so happened that the next person in line was Kamala Harris. In addition to that, Kamala Harris demanded the endorsement when Joe Biden called her, as revealed in this book, to tell her that he was leaving the race. She said that she needed it, so she was putting pressure on him as well in order to get the endorsement.
Look at how cavalier she is. That laugh is unbearable. I mean, uproarious laughter. The whole country's in a disaster now. But my career was slightly better off now because I seem like I was more right than Trump. That's not funny, man.
Another thing that Cenk doesn't appear to understand, because again, it doesn't appear that he read the book that he's referencing. It appears he's just going off of clips from an interview with Crystal and Sargar and the authors of the book, is the fact that all the different high-profile presidential candidates didn't want to run on short notice. Everybody who thought that they could win in 2028 did not want to be a part of this ticket. And the most notable one was, of course, Gretchen Whitmer, who Barack Obama wanted to install as the candidate with Wes Moore as the VP, who called Kamala Harris and told her straight up before Joe Biden dropped out that she was not running for president in 2024. So she had already bent the knee to Kamala Harris prior to this whole situation unfolding, unbeknownst to Barack Obama, who is essentially trying to force her into the presidency. And this was, again, based on the fact that you had a group chat with the Congress people on debate night where a bunch of the Congress people were saying Whitmer for president, and all the members of the Congressional Black Caucus unified and basically said they would tear the party apart if it was anyone but Kamala. So a lot of people are blaming Joseph or Biden for this, when in reality that's really all he could do. But the Congressional Black Caucus, they're the people who racialized this in the group chats and essentially made the point that they would tank the election had it been anybody but Kamala Harris. And by the way, Joe Biden's one condition for giving Kamala Harris the endorsement the same day that he dropped out was that she can't throw him under the bus, which also, I will point out, wouldn't look good for her either if she was just trying to abandon the previous candidate that she served under, because then it opens the question of why she didn't make any of those suggestions while serving in the administration. Also, in addition to that, that would open her up for attacks from the Biden camp, who was integrated into her campaign staff, and would have been an absolute disaster. So it's not as clean as they're talking about with Kamala just attacking Joe Biden. In reality, all these different various Democratic Party actors were acting in their own self-interest, and of course, chief among them was Barack Obama, Kamala Harris, Gretchen Whitmer, and all the other hopefuls for 2028 that did not want to jump in last minute for this position.
Yeah, and like, I wouldn't be laughing. You lost to that guy. You lost to that guy.
So that,
what are you laughing about? I mean, it's just, by the way, my other very favorite thing that's happening right now, people are like, oh, Kamala Harris, she might run again. She might run in the next presidential election. And these like left-wing shows play that reaction I had to you mentioning how she might run for governor of California. And I had a very real, yes, knee-jerk reaction to it. I started screaming, no, what are you doing? Don't do that. Because she's a bad candidate.
She's awful.
She sounds like she's drunk.
So,
okay,
I know, no,
pretending?
she's the greatest. She ran a flawless campaign. Biden is young.
Pretending. Stop pretending. The video she submitted to that little Catholic thing where the roast happened.
Al Smith dinner, yeah.
Yeah, the Al Smith dinner. That video wasn't funny at all, not even a little bit. Okay, she is not a talented politician. She's not a leader. Let's stop pretending like a pile of crap is gold, because it's not.
You gotta love the fact that Anna's just going completely scorched earth on Kamala Harris and doubling down on her previous reaction where she was screaming no, no to Kamala Harris running for governor in the state of California because she understands that Kamala Harris is a terrible candidate. She's a terrible politician and she wants people to stop pretending that. And of course she throws in the jab about Kamala Harris's video submission to the Al Smith dinner and all these other different various things. And honestly, genuinely, I truly appreciate it from Anna, because just tell us how you feel. Express yourself. Tell us what's up. Tell us the truth, because a lot of Democrats were straight up lying about her, talking about how amazing her campaign was going, when in reality, we all knew she was just a mediocre candidate at best.
So Tim Walz came out and responded to what he saw in that speech with Kamala Harris. And I want to go to that video. Let's take a look.
What does "I told you so" really mean here? I mean, people heard her message. They did not vote for her. She lost every battleground state. You yourself have criticized the Harris-Walz campaign for being too cautious. She may have told the American people, she may have warned the American people, but she didn't do it compellingly enough to win.
That is the absolute point. And look, when I criticize, I'm criticizing myself. I own this. I'm part of the ticket. And somebody has to come up with a strategy. I think this is exactly right. This is the thing. Look, Democrats, it was a good night in Wisconsin. I was over there. We saw that happen. Donald Trump's doing this. Just to be clear, nobody on the Democratic side is celebrating this. And those folks in the street are not celebrating that Donald Trump's making all these errors. I think what the vice president's saying is that was pretty self-evident that he was going to do that.
You know, the thing I really do appreciate about Tim Walz is the fact that he is willing to self-reflect. He is willing to do something that almost no politician is willing to do, take personal responsibility.
Yes, and he's honest and he's authentic.
So this is why it's really important, I believe it, to read the book Fight if you're going to reference it, because when you read the book Fight, one of the things that you'll find out is that Tim Walz is just as delusional, if not more delusional than Kamala Harris, because on election night, according to the book, he was absolutely stunned, had no words, and by the way, it's even more hilarious that they're talking about what a great choice it was to pick Tim Walz, because there was no actual choice on whether or not to go with Walz or Josh Shapiro, who was the other person in contention in the final two. What Josh Shapiro ended up doing, because he thinks he has a future as the 2028 nominee, was telling the Harris team that he was not a second fiddle guy. He doesn't think he could run on the bottom of the ticket. He doesn't think that he can subordinate himself to her agenda, aka don't pick me without saying don't pick me. Meanwhile, Tim Walz was only in contention because he kept calling the Harris campaign trying to jump on board, which is hilarious that he was that energetic about jumping on board, because when it came to debate night with JD Vance, the guy is described as absolutely cowardly. One of the quotes that's like attributed to him is that it's easy to attack people when you're on stage or on TV because they can't talk back, and he was terrified of the prep that JD Vance was going to put into the debate and thought that he would blow up the entire campaign. That's how cowardly Walz was. That's why he was in hiding, by the way, in the latter part of the campaign, because he's not good at his job. He's not a good campaigner. That's why he's doing the rallies now with no election pressures on him, nobody really questioning him, because this is the stuff that he finds easy. So Walz, not a good candidate either. Spoiler alert, you might be excited about school lunches in Minnesota or whatever, but in reality, this guy, not the best either. He was definitely on the B team as well. I mean, seriously, people, think about how impressive it is that the Democrats engineered a coup against Joe Biden to force him off the ticket in order to install a vice president that nobody wanted at the top of the ticket and a VP candidate alongside her that also nobody wanted in that position either.
Democrats don't like strategy. They like to pay influencers to pretend like Democrats are perfect, but they don't like to listen to their base. They loathe their base. I mean, how many election cycles have they made that abundantly clear? They loathe their own voters. So they hire these like pubescent like influencers on TikTok to pretend as if the Democrats are perfect and they're totally kicking ass when they're not. They didn't offer anything in the last election. They gaslit Americans who are concerned about very serious issues within the country. And when you do that, you create a vacuum in which Republicans come in, Donald Trump comes in, and he's like, this is what I'm gonna do.
So look, obviously I like Ana Kasparian and I get where she's coming from with that commentary, but I think it's a little bit misplaced because what Ana doesn't seem to realize is that the Democrats do like their base. It's just their base is not who she thinks they are. She thinks they're supposed to be working class people in all these different little communities and whatnot, minority groups and all that, when in reality, the Democratic base is the hyper-educated, wealthy person who, again, carries around their luxury beliefs in order to show off at cocktail parties because what they state doesn't actually impact them. The reason they didn't have a real message on immigration is because guess what? Wealthy people that aren't losing their jobs to illegal immigrants don't really care about that. They get nannies and people to clean their house out of the situation, and they have no love for the average American worker. The reason why they're obsessed with the social issues is twofold. One, they think it's a way to give them an in with minorities, but unfortunately for them, that is actually having diminishing returns, hence the gains that the evil orange man had. And two, their liberal, wealthy elite, the people with money, they love all those different various social issues. They love people like John Oliver, which is why he produced a 40-something minute segment about how biological males beating the crap out of females in sports is actually wonderful, because that is who the Democrats actually speak to. They are the elites. The wealthiest zip codes are the ones who back the Democrats the strongest. But yeah, overall, love this segment. 8, if not 9 out of 10 for me, and I definitely recommend you guys watch it. But I want to know what you guys think about this whole situation. What do you think about Kamala Harris doing the I told you so? What do you think about Ana and Cenk's reaction? What do you think about Tim Walz? And do you appreciate me actually going out of my way to get the audiobook, fight, and listen to it for myself, rather than go off the same interview from Crystal Wall that everybody seems to be focusing on and actually bring you the full information? Let me know all down in the comments below. As per usual, if you like the video, show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on the social medias, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about Ana Kasparian savaging the Kamala cult. Till next time.